Hey friends, welcome back to Thriving Thoughts. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri. Welcome to the first interview of Season 3, where our theme is Thrive in the Thick of It. And today, our episode is Eliminating Anxiety with Action with Susan Epstein. You guys, if you have ever been in a situation, or maybe you are right now in the thick of it, and you're having some panic, you're having anxiety, you're not really sure what to do, my dear friend Susan shares with you several tips about what it felt like for her when she panics internally, how she takes that, turns it into action, turns it into communication, and takes these steps to overcome anxiety, to eliminate it, and actually to thrive in the face of it. Susan shared so many nuggets of wisdom with me in our conversation, and I just can't wait for you to lean in and listen. But she talks about how it's good to be picky, how not everything has to be done right now. You hear me, don't you? Sometimes we feel like everything that we want to do has to be done right now. But she talks about one of her keys to success being doing one thing at a time. And guess what? Because she's choosing to thrive in the thick of it, to grow, learn, prosper, she's actually doing better because she's choosing to thrive in the thick of it. She's not doing worse. Hey, friends, listen, this episode is for you, to encourage you, to uplift you. If you've got a business, if you're thinking about starting a business and you're worried about the state of the world these days, take it from my beautiful friend, Susan Epstein, founder of Highly Profitable Practice. Not only is Susan an expert in business, but she's a beautiful soul who's choosing to share her heart and what it really looks like to thrive in the thick of it. Here's my conversation with Susan.
So what does your day hold? What are things like in Connecticut with COVID? Are you guys in phase 3? What's going on there?
We're not. We're in phase 2.
Okay.
And we may not go to phase 3. And if you watch TV and look at the map, you'll see that we're probably the only state that's holding or going down, because we are just uber serious. Like,
yeah.
It's really, I think people are just freaked out here. So they're just not doing anything. Like, everything is closed. The theaters, things that were going to open didn't open.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just, go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy. Every weekend we do a field trip to the nearest garden center.
Oh, okay.
Right.
For projects, right?
Yes. And we've been working on the garden and fixing the house. And my husband's learned how to do a lot of things by himself without calling a handyman. So that is really he's feeling so confident right now. I know.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
so what are, speaking of confidence and getting out of our comfort zone, how is this pushing you out of yours?
It's not exactly pushing me out of my comfort zone in that respect, because I've had an online business, a coaching business for well over 15 years. And I've been saying this to my colleagues and my family, that my life isn't different at all. In my work life isn't different in terms of how I spend my day. The only couple of things that changed was I was going to do a live event in May and I had to cancel that. But I'm teaching more online classes instead. So but the one thing that it's kind of made me do is be a little more purposeful with reaching out to people like you.
Oh, yeah.
So
for sure.
Because my world has shrunk and I don't have that many people to talk to. So
now, did you how did you connect with people before intentionally? Were you like going out to networking events, or what did that look like? Did that part look different?
No. I did that for a number of years. I had a parenting business before I had the business that I have now, which is business coaching. Okay. And in the years past, I think before video, definitely I was a big BNI person. I did chamber stuff. I went to a lot of live events. I was very active in the world and everybody knew who I was and what I did. That was before you could do it this way. In the last 5 years, I've kind of cocooned a bit and stayed home and been pickier. And so if I do go out, I'm really choosing who I'm spending my time with and what I'm doing. And there are a couple of things that I do in the community that I connect with other women and other people in business and stuff, but not like I was before. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the word purposeful, or being intentional, being thoughtful, being picky even.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a friend earlier today, actually, at the dog park, a dog park friend. And there's a lot of wisdom to be found in the dog park, by the way.
I agree. Yeah.
And we were talking about how sometimes as women in particular, and women in business, we can get it into our minds that we are not either permitted to or deserving of being intentional or purposeful or picky, that somehow we have to pay our dues, and that you will know when you get to that place where you can afford to be picky. And I say, you can't afford not to be picky from the beginning, because otherwise, now I'm speaking to the business coach, so you might correct me there.
No, I agree. Yeah. We all have the same amount of hours in the day, right?
That's right.
And if you want to build something and you want it to be big, in a sense, meaning impactful in the world and purposeful to yourself, you have to make choices, you know. And one of the best advices that I ever got from one of my coaches was, you don't have to do everything. You can say not now. So it's like, I'll write a book, but not now.
Not now.
I'll take that trip that I was going to take, but obviously we're not going anywhere. So that's a not now, but it's not necessarily never. It's just like, okay, like it's on my bucket list. I'm going to do it, but not now. Right now, I'm focusing on, filling up this group coaching program I'm doing, or I'm focusing on building out my team, or I'm focusing on writing the next masterclass that I'm going to give online, or, just to be focused. And then when you do choose to write your book, then don't do anything else but write your book. I wrote a book about, I don't know, I think it was in 2014, a parenting book when I was still doing that. Okay. And I was like, if I drag this out, it will never get done, and I'll just be mad at myself. So I'm taking August, and I started on August 1st. And by the 30th, I didn't do anything else. I didn't talk to anybody. I canceled most of my appointments, and I just came into my office and I just did it. And I was like, because there was the ROI on the other end to getting it done was so huge that it made sense for me to do that. Right.
Yeah. What are you focusing on right now?
Right now, I pivoted. I couldn't do my live event, which I do every year. And sometimes I do. Last year I did 2, which means that I would bring around, 70 to 100 people to Connecticut and teach for 3 days from the stage. Okay. Now I was supposed to do that the week before Memorial Day. And in February, I saw the writing on the wall and canceled it. And so now I'm looking into planning a virtual event where I can do this, but from here, from the comfort of my office, and people can do it from the comfort of their home. And the other things, and that will probably either happen in the fall or in January. But right now, I have a number of master classes that I have already set up to teach. I have one tomorrow, which by the time this is aired, it'll be over. But I have one tomorrow. It's called Client Getting Secrets for Coaches. I have another masterclass that I'll be doing in September. So I keep rolling out these masterclasses, or quote webinars, whatever you want to call them. Sure. And also, I run various programs within my business. So I have to show up, for those times. I run a number of masterminds, and I have businessy things that I do with my team to run the business, and other trainings that I'm involved with, and writing more in-depth information for training so that people can really understand what I'm teaching. So those are some of the things I work on. Okay. I love that. Now I want to back up because the theme of the podcast for this season is thriving in the thick of it. And as a business owner, I don't know. I might always say we're in the thick of something, but as business owners, there's always another
opportunity. There's another challenge. There's an area for growth. If we're doing it right, if we're really seeking it right. I don't think we ever, hopefully we never attain or get to a plateau. But you talked about having this, as a business owner, you want to be successful, not only for your intrinsic motivations and your desire to serve with your gifts, but for financial reasons, for the success, practical success of the business. So you've got this major event planned, and then COVID-19, the global pandemic strikes, and you use the word you had to pivot. But I want to back up before the pivot, because there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before we pivot, emotionally, right? Mentally. So I wonder, because this is you as a business owner, thriving in the thick of it, walk us through a little bit, some of the things that you thought, some of the fears or questions that maybe you had, and how you responded to that.
So we did a live event in November and the previous May. And after that, we went and said, we've outgrown our hotel. It was I had been using the same hotel for 4 years. And I'm like, I'm ready for the bigger place. So in January, I went and wrote, a couple of RFPs looking for a place, and then picked a place that I wanted to have it. And it was beautiful. And there's a waterfall in the front hall of this hotel. And it's across from this little village where people could eat. And it's in downtown Mystic. It's just a beautiful place in Connecticut. Right. And I thought everyone's going to love this. And I started going online and buying stuff like M&Ms, pens, pens, and what I was going to give away as swag, and a lot of planning with my team. I actually wrote the entire content for it way back in January, because my OBM, my online business manager, is having a baby, and she's the person that helps me with that. So we were like getting it done before she went off for maternity leave. So we did all that. I gave a deposit to the hotel in January. It was about $1,000 just to hold the space. Sure. And there was all this legalese. And one of the things in it was, in French, I can't remember what it's called, a force of nature, but it's something to whatever, if there's an earthquake, if there's a this, if there's a that, and that never happens, right?
Right. So sure. Let me sign on the dotted line.
Otherwise you owe us, you're in for $1,000, and 30 days or 60 days out or 30 days out, I can't remember, you're in for what it would cost to actually, plus the rooms that I was supposed to fill, because they have this room block thing, and it's fairly complicated when you're doing these things. Yeah. So I started getting really nervous in February. I heard about this thing, and I started calling the hotel, and he and the guy there, the event guy, you're overreacting. Nobody else is canceling. We're not going to let you out of it. You're still going to owe us the money, and he was, so then I had to go get an attorney. Okay. And just say, well, what are my rights? And he's like, well, and by the time I was talking to the attorney, it was March. Yeah. And he's like, this is looking like a force of nature. I think you're going to be okay. But it was many, many conversations with the hotel until everybody at the hotel was furloughed. And at that point, I got the phone call that, not, I guess you were right, but everybody can get their money back because it's a force of nature, blah, 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 blah. I still haven't gotten my money back. They're still because they were closed for 2 months and nobody's doing anything right. But that's okay. I mean, I'll get it. But the cool part was, because we don't usually start promoting our events until 6 weeks before with the email and buying a lot of things. And my team is all over the world. I have team members in Seattle, in Berlin, in Ann Arbor, in Canada. Like, I fly them all in. Yeah. So we hadn't bought the plane tickets yet. Thank goodness. Good. And so because we were just kind of watching it, we were being very cautious. Usually I'll say to my team, if you find a cheap ticket, get it. We know we're doing this. Yeah. And I would have said, get your ticket in December, but we didn't. So I was very lucky because the investment that I had made was very little. It was a time investment, but it wasn't a monetary investment. Sure. And we just said, no, we'll wait. So then we said to the hotel, well, we'll do this in October. So we picked an October date. And then a month later, we're like, no, we'll do this next May.
That's right.
And then I was like, no, we're taking it off the table because I don't know what 2021 is going to look like in May either. So we moved it a couple of times, just watching the news.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it was very anxiety provoking. I was worried about it. I was worried about being.
What were you worried about specifically?
Well, the big thing was for me, where I live in Connecticut, bringing people to a live event is a big deal.
Okay.
The airports aren't close necessarily to where we come. So it's always a big decision for people. If they want to fly into Hartford or into Providence, Rhode Island, they're still going to have to somehow get to Mystic, Connecticut. So that's like an hour. And so it's not like, and it's also not a destination. Like, come to Sedona. Oh, come to San Diego. Oh, let's go to Italy together. It's not that kind of a thing. So it was always a bit pulling teeth for getting people to come anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were saying to me all the time over the past 4 years, Susan, are you live streaming it? Can't you just teach this online? I was getting tons of that. And then it's expensive. You've got to buy your plane ticket, your hotel, and you want to give up, at least 5 days, 2 days of travel and 3 days of being there.
Sure.
So my worry was it's hard enough to get people anyway, but who's going to travel now? Yeah. And who's going to travel in October and who's going to travel next year? And and then the resources, because it takes us 6 months to plan this within my team. So then all of our time is put into something that might not happen, where I could be doing something else that's making something actually happen.
There you go.
And I didn't want to lose my business. I think that was my biggest fear, that I would put all this energy into something that wouldn't happen. I would spend a lot of money on that and time, and then be sitting there with my hands open with nothing at the end of the day, rather than pivoting and saying, hey, we live in an online world. I can just do more online stuff, which is exactly what we did. We just did twice as many masterclasses. And I'll tell you, here's the juicy thing.
Yeah.
I'm doing better than if I was having a live event right now.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, I don't have to do that. And even though I love it, it's kind of like on Saturday morning when you think about cleaning your house. It's just the thought of it. But when you're doing it, you're singing and you got the music on. After you're really happy. But there's so many decisions. There's so many ifs, ands, or buts. There's so many people to deal with. And people have food stuff now that they never had before 5 years ago. Everybody's got a thing. And figuring out how to make everybody happy and feed them. And it's like, okay, just, stay home and eat your own food and plug in and you'll be happier. And I think I'll be able to, when I do this virtual event, this probably 2 or 3 day event, I think I'll have 3 or 4 times as many people will come. I mean, I know that because there's not going to be an obstacle with planes and trains and automobiles and hotels and food and leaving dogs and kids and husbands and wives and lives and aging parents, and because everybody has a thing that they're responsible for.
So what I hear, Susan, is that you, which we'll get back to in a second, I believe takes a lot of practice and rehearsal throughout life. It doesn't just come naturally. Is translating your anxiety into action. That's what you did, because it's really easy to become debilitated by anxiety, to become blinded by the perceived obstacles, and to not potentially see opportunity in the face of adversity. And it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you've had practice doing that, because it seemed that process seemed pretty fluid for you this time, as if it wasn't foreign to you, as if, okay, I've done this before, been here before, maybe not with a pandemic, but.
Well, I do. I think I have always done it. It's, I don't know if it's something that is a learned response, or, I mean, I can go way back and say, I have an ability to see the writing on the wall. And years ago when I worked in a job and I saw that it was starting to look weird at the job, I would be like, I'm out of here. And then I would start to plan. I never stayed anywhere too long that I was beaten down. I always preserved my self-respect. I think that's it.
Where do you think that came from for you?
My mom and dad, probably. My mother is she's a hot ticket. She was always a action taker, a doer, and she's living with us now, and she's 92, and she's going to be on a podcast tomorrow.
Oh, I love it.
She's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing.
What podcast is she going to be on?
It's Gail Stiletsky's something over 70, aging something or other. I can't remember the name. It's today, actually. I'm going to help her get on Zoom.
Oh, my goodness.
Today. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You've always been that way. Have you ever stumbled into situations where that process was not as fluid for you, where it maybe stuttered a little bit more than usual?
There's times where I've overreacted and gotten myself in a position that wasn't good. The big one was in 2008. I was a parenting coach then, and it was just me, my admin, and me, just having clients, right? And all of a sudden, I was losing clients like left and right because of the crash. And these were big paying clients. I was a pretty well-known parenting coach at the time. I flew around the country helping parents in their homes, kind of like a super nanny.
Okay.
I had a lot of clients in Utah where the housing boom was. And I had this one woman, she called me up and she's like, I can't pay my employees. I can't work with you. And she was like a $1,200 a month client. For me, that was a lot of money then.
Sure.
Like my mortgage payment.
Right.
So I was like, I got a job. And it was the worst decision. Like I shouldn't have. I bailed.
Yes, that's good. I think
right.
that's what we do a lot of times is we have. So I want to help the women listening here, Susan, because there's a lot of people who do not have that history of foresight, of seeing possibility, who aren't versed in that. There's a lot of women who are versed in knee-jerk reactions, and so I wonder. I think that's what you're talking about, because when we feel stressed, when we feel panicked, it's like, oh, let me go do this, as opposed to pivoting. So maybe you can point us in the right direction of what's the difference between a knee-jerk reaction, an overreaction, and a pivot. And how do I recognize that in myself?
I think one of the things that I didn't do in 2008 was talk to anybody about it. I was too much in my head.
Yeah.
And I did have a coach at the time, and I always say to myself, he wasn't, I was going to some of his things, but he didn't reach out to me, and I didn't reach out to him because I wasn't paying him at the time.
And so you didn't think that you?
Yeah, I didn't think I could. Or something like
okay.
that. But it was more like I wished that I had some mentoring, and just Susan, hang in there, stick it out. It's going to be okay. Yes. You can pivot. And I didn't know how to pivot then. I mean, that was 12 years ago. I wasn't that experienced. In pivoting, I would always pivot big, get another job, or But what if I had stayed in my business, I think I could have done it. But here's what happened: I got this job, and it was a really bad job. Like literally, I was a supervisor in a clinic for social. My background is psychotherapy. Okay. So, and literally, I was stuck in an office. Signing paperwork. Like, it was really boring. I was going out of my mind, and I had to do some things I didn't want to do. And my bosses were terrible people. They were just really power hungry, and it was just not a good space for me. But what happened was I met this person who I knew through coaching, and she was doing some network marketing with health coaching and a product. And I didn't even know what that was. I had never even heard of Amway. And this wasn't Amway, but it was something where you had a product. Yeah. So she said, you want to try this. Could you lose a few pounds? I'm like, every woman can lose a few pounds. Okay, good, I'll do it. So I did the program. I was successful. I signed up my cousin to work with me, and we did it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, one month I looked at my bank account, and I had made $3,000 that month from that business, which is about what I was making from this terrible job.
Right.
At $50,000 a year, which was so terrible, at my age at that point was not good. But it had health insurance, and there was some perks there. But so I was like, I'm leaving. So I only was in that job for 6 months, and I just needed to get confident and do something else. So then at the same time, I was able to start traveling for a continuing ed company. And that position really changed my life. It allowed me to travel around the country for 7 years, teaching on explosive and challenging kids. And I met so many people, and I was able to pivot again. I started writing books and clinical stuff and teaching all day long, and got really good at being in front of a crowd, which set me up for, my future business that I had.
Yes.
So even though the pivot was drastic, getting the job I didn't want, it actually led me to something, every building block led me to something else. I didn't just stay in that job. I mean, that would have been the worst thing. That would have been, if I had given up my coaching business. But I think if you're successful in business on your own and then you go get a job, you very quickly figure out, at least most people that I know, that they can't work for someone else again. It's just impossible. You don't walk in the door and someone's looking at their watch saying you're late.
Right.
Or you have to stay till 5, even though you finished your work.
Even though you're right. Yep.
It just feels like you just feel like you're 15 again. So, I quickly knew that,
So I heard two things in there. One, that if you do pivot big, if you do have a knee jerk and you pivot big, that there is still foresight, there is still possibility wrapped within that decision.
Oh yeah.
If we choose to see it that way. Yeah. And then, but here's the other thing that I want to ask you, because there's two, we can parallel this to the pandemic. So there's panic, and there's purpose, being purposeful. So we can choose to live in a panicked world, and a purposeful world. So what I did not hear in there, even though you pivoted big, it doesn't sound like you panicked. It still sounds like you were thoughtful and purposeful about it. Or am I wrong?
Yeah. I panic internally.
Okay.
For a very short period of time.
Okay.
And then I take action to make the panic stop.
Okay. So got purposeful action.
Yes. When I was in college, I did my papers right away. I never pulled an all-nighter. I wouldn't even know what that looked like. I was reading when everyone was writing their papers at the end of the semester. I was laying on my dorm room bed reading mysteries.
Oh my goodness! You and I could not be more unlike.
Right, I can't handle the having it undone. I have to finish it. Yeah. I don't like that feeling of not knowing what it's going to look like and not having finished it. And once I finish it, I don't ever want to look at it again. Don't even put it. I don't want to keep fixing it. It's better done than perfect is my motto as well. And I move on to the next thing. And if there's a typo, I'll fix it later. I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But I need to get rid of that underlying fear by taking action immediately. And that makes me feel good, but it also has helped me in my life accomplish so many things. Yeah. I'm not a procrastinator at all. If I don't want to do it, I just don't do it. It's a choice.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a choice.
Yeah.
I often find that I ask women if they're telling me that they're frustrated because they're trying to get something done or accomplish something, but they're not doing it. They keep putting it on the back burner. They keep avoiding it. Very often what I discover with them is that it's just not in their gifting, because if it's in your gifting, you'll be compelled to do it. You won't be compelled to avoid it.
That's right.
Yeah. So let me back up a second. So you said two things that you do to thrive, to learn and grow when things are tight, when you're in the thick of it, is one, talk to somebody about it, get some mentorship, some wisdom about it.
Yeah.
And two, just take action, just start to take action to minimize that anxiety. Mm-hmm. So I want to back up to the first one, talking to someone, because you said, if I had somebody, or maybe you said I had wanted somebody to encourage me to persevere, to keep going. That's in today's business culture. I don't think it's a necessarily foreign concept to entrepreneurs who are like, they're at the starting line and their wheels are burning rubber and they believe in it. But when they go to somebody else and other people who love them look outside and they see them struggling. And they see them in this place that's just, they want the best for them, but they see that this is not safe and secure and sure, as is the traditional path, right? So some of us women, we might want to talk to somebody and we might want to be encouraged by somebody, but we might be surrounded by people with that traditional mindset. So what would you say to that woman?
I would say that if it's something that's really important to you, you need to surround yourself with more people that are encouraging and stop running by your ideas with your partner or your family.
Yes.
Just don't tell
doesn't mean you need to divorce your
but you don't partner. Have to, in the traditional world, years ago, a man would come home from work and he wouldn't want to talk about what happened at work.
Right.
You can choose not to talk about it. You don't have to, the thing that I find quite interesting too is like oftentimes when, we're talking to somebody about working with us, they'll say, I have to ask my husband. Mm-hmm. And then I get to ask, well, who makes the financial decisions in your family? And whose business is this? Mm-hmm. If he had a business, would he be asking you for permission to get a consultant or to get a coach? Right. No. Well, why? Well, he told me, I'm like, I've run through all our savings, which a lot of people do, with the wrong people, and that, that he's not going to support it. And I said, well, who else can you borrow money from then? Don't borrow money from your family.
Right.
Women typically would do it with glue, stick, and glitter. That's what I say. And men go to a bank and say, give me a loan.
Right. Yeah.
And we're like making our own business cards, right?
That's right. Hey, whatever it takes. Yeah.
But
so surrounding yourself with different people that get it, that will encourage you, and that will challenge you to think in more preserving ways. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So tell us a little bit more. What does a day in the life of Susan look like? Tell us about one of your master classes, because this episode will air in August. And I think you mentioned you have a master class in September.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that. What is it? A master class sounds appealing, but what in the heck is it?
Yeah. So I'm going to be teaching in September. I think it's September 14th. At least it's on the calendar now. Things could change, but right now that's the date. And it's called Create and Design Your Group Coaching Program. So basically it's workshop style, and I walk you through picking the name of your group coaching program. I teach you how to run it as a pilot. You figure out the 3 results that people are going to walk away from being in your group coaching program or your mastermind. Some people want to create a mastermind. And you get the whole design, how much it's going to cost, when you're going to meet, if you can do it on Zoom or on the phone or in person. And they walk away with a sheet of their entire group program planned after an hour of being on a webinar with me, a masterclass webinar.
Is that restricted to a specific type of coach, or which coaches do you have an affinity to serve?
All, actually, because what I teach is pretty generic in terms of, if you're a parenting coach, you might want to do a group of parents. If you're an executive coach, you might want to do a group of, CEOs from different businesses for a mastermind. If you're a wellness coach, you might want to get a group of people together that want to lose weight together or exercise together, get healthy together. I have a lot of coaches these days that are doing release your money blocks, tapping, any kind of groups that people want to do. If it's, I can help them create a group coaching program to fill with my model.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now let me ask you this, Susan, do you still do any group coaching yourself, or is it all coaching coaches?
I do. So I have, we have in our business model, we have a mastermind group that I started 4.5 years ago. And that group, I ran it, then I handed it off to another coach, and then she moved on and I handed it off to another coach, and she's out having a baby right now. So someone else is filling in for us. So that group is sort of the beginning group, a coach who just figured out their niche. They want to implement some of the things they learned from me on some of the master classes that they took, but they want that year-long support.
Got it.
So I don't teach that one or run that one. I do run my High Profit Inner Circle, which is for coaches, therapists, and healers who are already successful, with their business. They maybe are at six figures or close to it, and they want to scale and grow, either by building out a team or just doing more or creating some passive income and not doing so much one-on-one coaching anymore. Mm-hmm. And I do run that group.
Okay, perfect. And at what level of frequency do you meet?
Our masterminds and group coaching programs meet twice a month for 90 minutes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit with us about mm-hmm. like how would somebody access that? How would somebody say, let me learn more, let me sign up? Mm-hmm.
So the best way is it's two best ways. One way is to go to our website, which is highlyprofitablepractice.com.
Okay.
And there's a nice little resource there, and it actually walks you through the model of create and design your group coaching program or your mastermind. So you can read a little bit about it and say if that's for you. Then you'll get some emails, and then you'll be on the list to get invited to the master classes that I'm doing.
Okay, great.
I also have a Facebook group, which is called Group Coaching Mastery, and that's on Facebook. And if you want to talk with me, you can just send me an email at susan@highlyprofitablepractice.com, and I'm happy to set up a Zoom call with you and see if we have a program that's a fit for you so that you can have a real and profitable business, and whether or not you want to use groups and masterminds, or you just want one-on-one, or you want something else, we can talk about if I have a program or something to give you to help you, get to that next step.
Yeah, that's so generous. Thank you for giving our listeners a way to directly contact you. I appreciate that. So I wonder if you can share, I had a thought before we close out here the next 5 minutes or so. I wonder if you could share a story of maybe a coach or a client that you have worked with who's been in the thick of it, in the thick of something, and how you helped them navigate that.
That is a great question. So I had a coach. I worked with her for a couple of years, and she was a massage therapist, and she was also a business coach, but her business coaching was very tiny. It was just very, very tiny. And her biggest problem, the thick of it, was she didn't have any time because she had so many people coming to her home office for massage therapy. And when you're in the thick of it and you count on the money, it's really hard to let go of those hours so that you can spend time growing the business that you really want to be doing.
That's right.
She was older, and she was ready to not be standing all day and having something that she could take into her retirement. I think she's 65. So she was moving towards not wanting to do physical work anymore so much.
Sure.
So I had done my own transition from psychotherapy to coach 15 years ago. And I said to myself, in 3 years, I'm going to get out of this business and I'm going to be in that one. And I did it. And so when I originally talked with her, I said, I can help you with that. I know how to do this. Right. And so the first thing we did was we looked at her business, her current business, and we looked at her rates, and we said, well, if you charged a little bit more for your massage, and she hadn't raised her prices in 5 years, you can cut out 3 or 4 hours a week, which would allow you to then have time to enroll or join a networking group just for business coaching. And so little by little, we did it. And as we did it, it became so clear to her that this was going to happen, that by the time I said goodbye to her, because we ended our coaching contract, which was in, I think, February. It was really March this past year.
Oh, okay.
She had 2 days left of massage, which she couldn't do because of COVID. Yeah. But she had this other business that she had replaced it. Yeah. And so she was now making 6 figures as a business coach. Oh, and she said the writing was on the wall. I didn't know the crystal ball was there, but I needed to do this because, my husband and I still needed to have some money going forward. So we took it step by step, and we just opened up time and got her really focused on what she really needed to do. And she was somebody who was a bit of a shiny object person. She wanted to, this is, and then finally I got her to say to me, is this something I want? And I'm like, no, that's not what you want. You want what you said you wanted. And just, staying, with eye towards the goal of having a 75% business coaching and a few massage therapy clients because she liked it and she wanted to continue doing that a little bit, but then she couldn't.
Yeah.
And she still had a business and completely online now and going and doing this, right? Yeah.
I think that's an incredible story, and it's also not a mythical story. It's a real story that I think many entrepreneurs live as they make that leap. Now, Susan, I wish I had met you. Oh, I'm a jumper. When I decide to leap, I jump. I don't build, a craft to carry me over the chasm. Nothing. I just go, and then I learn as I go. But so I love what you said about like kind of that's what is so great about having a coach, having somebody there to walk you through that process, keep your eye focused on, where you're going, to not lose hope. But my question for you is, was there any time with that particular client where she was just like, I want to throw in the towel? Like,
yes.
I can't.
Yes.
And how did you navigate that?
Most of it was her feeling ill-equipped to make offers. And so we just doubled down on the sales training that I do. Okay. And it helped her feel really comfortable. I have a script, sticking to the script, not coaching people on the call, just different things, just more. She just needed to practice more. And I just challenged her to, book at least 3 to 5 sessions a week and not worry about if she signed them up or not, but just to practice. Yeah. And that really, she grew her muscle. And was like, yes, I get it. This worked. I didn't, I had to stuff my hand in my mouth and not talk, but I was able to enroll this client. And, kind of also picking like who she wanted to work with and not feeling desperate, was working on the mindset of I want, not I need. And that became really apparent because she was worried, like we all get, I want. Is so much better than I need, because I need is desperate.
It sure is desperate. Yeah. So here's what I really value about what you said, Susan, that a lot of times when you're feeling ill-equipped, it can become an issue of negatively evaluating your identity as a person, your capabilities as a person, as a woman. And there is a tendency to throw in the towel, I think, which inadvertently confirms or grows that belief or that self-doubt that you have in yourself. And I love how when you mentioned it before, but when you decide to take action, I love how when you decide to take action, what happens is you're so focused on the action, you're so focused on the craft, like you're saying a script, here, this is a process, this is what you have to do. You're so focused on that you have to make a choice to either focus on the process or focus on the emotions and the feelings that come up for you. So if you can focus on the process, if you can put your feet and your hand and your minds to action, it kind of divorces you from the emotions that rise up that cripple you.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. Okay. So one more question for you before we, 2 more questions actually, Susan. So you spoke to the business owner, the entrepreneur, the one who maybe is thinking about taking a leap and they're not really sure how to go about it. You just spoke to her a little bit, sharing that story. So thank you for that. Can you speak now to maybe a business owner or a coach who has had a really strong business model, and this force of nature, going back to what we started with in the very beginning, has really wreaked havoc on their business? Can you speak to them? What would you say to them right now?
Get coaching.
Okay.
Get coaching and get out of your head, because most of what you're saying to yourself is just a story, and none of us know. None of us know what's going to be 6 months from now, a year from now. And I think that this COVID thing has really told us that we don't know about this, but we don't know about anything. And you just need to put one foot in front of the other. The other thing I think is really important too is this a hobby or is this your business? And if it's a hobby, you're not in. So you need to ask yourself, am I all in? And that's a decision you have to make. And until you've made the decision that this is my business, that I'm supporting my family with this, that this is the money that I need for my retirement or my kids' college, until you have that inner, like, I have to go to work.
Yeah.
And I have to make it work, then you're going to do whatever it takes. You're going to talk to people. You're going to try things. Try everything. And if it doesn't work, get help to decide if you should toss it or tweak it.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it didn't work, it could be, I did something a couple of months ago where I made an offer on a class and I changed one thing by mistake. And it had really chaotic consequences. It wasn't a total loss because it recouped, but that one thing that I changed, and I was like, I'm not going to toss this masterclass because I know if I just said it this way, I have the same magic that I always have. So sometimes it's just a tweak.
Yeah.
And
this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Get coaching and get out of your head. Okay.
Yeah.
Susan. So this show is all about thriving in any and every circumstance. This season, thriving in the thick of it. And the way that we do that is to believe and practice truth over these ridiculous lies that come up in our minds and attempt to stop us. So I ask every guest, and you're the first one this season, if you could leave the women who are listening with one truth that you want them to remember after the show ends, what would that be?
Do one thing at a time.
Can you tell me more? Because that truth was for me right now. That was for me. So tell me more.
Don't put too much on your plate that you feel overwhelmed. Pick one project and see it through.
That's so good.
And perfect it.
And that's so hard to do.
I know.
Especially for creatives.
I know.
Right? Like, but I have this idea and I have this idea and this one's in the process and this one's almost done. So since it's almost done, let me start this other thing. And but that can quickly devolve out of control, I suppose.
You could take one model that you have and put all your creativity into that model. I have this one model of the masterclass, and each time I teach, it's a different subject. But the way I bring it out to the world is always the same. It's the same process. It's the same type of promotions. That part is a template. What I teach and how I grow is my creativity inside that box. And I perfected that model, and I did it over 3.5 years. And then I created a new model, and I created an evergreen webinar. So now I have another one that's just out in the world and it just goes. But I didn't do that one until this one was better. And this one was perfected. I didn't do a live event and invite 70 people until I knew that I could teach it to 11 people in my living room.
Yeah.
I'm testing, I'm trying, I'm doing one thing and I'm growing it. When I started my first group, my first mastermind, for 10 months, all I did was fill that thing. I didn't build a website. I didn't create a funnel. I didn't do anything. I just picked up the phone and called people for 10 months. That's all I did. Yeah.
You have the gift of deliberativeness, which makes you an outstanding coach.
Thank you.
Coaching with Susan and get out of your head. And the final truth that you've left with us, Susan, thank you so much. Do one thing at a time.
What a wealth of information Susan has been. When you are thriving in the thick of it, I do hope you reach out to her. She's made this generous offer. Please email her at susan@highlyprofitablepractice.com. Check out her Facebook group Coaching Mastery, or go to her website, highlyprofitablepractice.com, and check out her free resource to understand what the Create and Design program can do for you and your business, or a business that you've been thinking about creating. I love what she said about having a mindset of I want and not I need. I really hope that you adopt that thriving thought and that truth today. Please remember to subscribe and click 5 stars if you're an Apple Podcast user. Help us reach even more women with these truths about how to thrive in the thick of it. I'm honored for every episode you share and every person that you tell about this podcast. Hey, listen, if you'd like Thriving Thoughts delivered straight to your text messaging inbox, all you need to do is text the word THRIVE, THRIVE, to 540-369-2139. And you'll get those messages from me. I can't wait to interact with you that way. Hey, friends, thanks for checking out the first episode of Season 3 today. We'll be back on Wednesday with another episode from me. Until then, remember to speak truth over the lies so you can thrive not only in any and every circumstance, but in the thick of it.